Yes, we're live.
Yep, same. Yep, we're live on both fronts. Okay,
Okay.
so uh, hello everyone. This is the first
Hi
of.
there.
Hello.
Hi guys. Hey.
Yeah, this is Marco, DJ, and Tomash, and this is the first of hopefully many podcasts that we'll be having amongst ourselves and some varying guests later on about all things Archviz. So we're to kick this off. We're going to have a super casual conversation about the nature of the ArcViz industry today. And for those of you listening who are looking to break into the industry or move up in the industry, we'll be talking a bit about the experiences that DJ and Tom have had, having worked as ArcViz visualizers. I, I guess you would call your yeah. So uh, having worked as visualizers for some time, yeah. So without further ado, I think we can kick it off by having you guys introduce yourselves a bit. Tell us where we can find you or your work, and yeah, like a bit about the sort of projects you used to do, or anything of that sort. So yeah, go ahead. Let's maybe start with you, Tom.
Okay. Well, I started out as mainly as an architect, so I kind of got um, like organically from architecture to ArchViz, because
Mm.
I was first working as a kind of an architect 3D/3D artist at a kind of a small studio, and it somehow got to the point where I was just doing all the 3D stuff of my company. And since it was a small studio, then well, I get to get all the 3D jobs for the studio. Um, and I mainly did after I left the studio, I worked as a freelance, so I did a lot of Archviz projects, kind of both interiors and exteriors, all these kind of most common like residential and office buildings, and also some pretty uncommon stuff. And mainly right now I kind of do a lot of freelancing work. You can mainly find me on Behance because I have my own Behance portfolio, which is like my main place where I post my work. And well, right now I'm trying to step up the game and do something more interesting, maybe finding new jobs and finding more interesting jobs than all the common stuff. Right now you can find it everywhere.
Cool, cool. Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
So what about you, DJ? You tell us a bit about yourself, yeah.
Yeah. So so let's like how to say it. Like Thomas said, it's well probably it's not like the unusual way of getting into art. It's like being an architect. Like I'm maybe not from this actual architectural background per se, but from the interior design side because that was my my master's degree on the Arts Academy, and yeah, I mainly got into 3D because of that. So like using 3D as a tool for interior design, furniture design, stuff like stuff
Yeah.
that we used to do at the academy, and then when I got to different jobs, started developing the skills more and more. And generally, I tended to be more interested in this whole topic, like the tools. Like I was really enjoying like the freedom that it gives, the creativity that you can put into projects like this. And what was really inspiring for me is that you can in 3D you can do a lot of things, and yeah, visualize what you want to do in the real world because I was really doing more of like real design work to be implemented than just like the visualizations, but also then got to cooperate with some real estate developer companies and to get some commissions for pure ArcViz, but mostly interiors. And yeah, that was my main topic, like interiors. So I really got few experiences with exteriors. Yeah, always really wanted to get into it, but didn't get the
I actually
direction this
started
way.
the other way around because I started with doing exterior shots, and then like kind of after like a year probably I got into doing interiors.
Oh, that's interesting.
The other way around, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Perfect. It's
Yeah, and I
perfect.
was looking at different people working in this field. Like you tend to see a lot of people with real architectural background somehow.
But that's a
Like,
funny
I think
thing,
it's
actually.
yeah, I think it's like one of the main routes to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Although I do always kind of, so I don't know if like maybe our listeners are familiar with our YouTube channel and the streams we've done there, but in those conversations as well as some interviews we've had in the past, it seems like maybe up until recently it wasn't really like you would like Tom's story of there being like him being the only guy in the studio that was actually doing visualization work was pretty common. Why do you guys think that is? Like why how is it that like
well,
yeah.
if I get your question right, well, it's the thing that, from my experience, I tend to think that Archviz as a field, sort of making like the high fidelity, high quality renderings with really in-depth lighting, texturings, photorealistic and really immersive images. These are pretty demanding in stores, like in resources. You have to put time, work,
Right.
effort, and a lot of it requires a lot of work, and a lot of architectural studios really, this is a tool of selling the project, sort of,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes really like in the workflow, in the kind of like the whole project's workflow, you don't always need that. So like probably the most demanding field is when real estate companies tend to allure the clients with nice images. When this is really a selling point, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
selling,
Yeah, because it's
getting
funny
nice
because like
images.
when I think about it, because visualizing often happens like in the very end, and like sometimes it's even like pushed aside. But then it's kind of like the most important selling point for each project.
Yeah, I
Um,
can imagine.
I mean, in the architectural companies, so often like put aside to the
Mhm.
very end, like when you have the time, you just do like visualizing all this stuff. But then it's like kind of like the most important thing, that is kind of closing the project and it's finally selling the project in the end.
Yeah, I guess that's the best marketing tool you could probably
Well,
have, yeah, as a
probably, yeah. If
as
not
being
counting
part
like
of it.
some, I don't know, some more immersive kind of technologies, like, I don't know, some virtual reality technologies, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, but there was an interesting point. I forgot. I'm not sure who. I think it was like Sokolovsky who mentioned it, and I thought it made a lot of sense. He was kind of saying that we uh, like there's so much allure in virtual reality, and I'm sure l- a lot of agencies are jumping on that, but um, the thing about I guess being able to orbit around this space and to like move about it freely kind of takes away the sort of um, storytelling, maybe you could say, when it comes to presenting, since what I'm getting is it's a marketing initiative, and so it's kind of like having to have the best foot forward, and so all of the devices that come with producing stills are like very carefully
Mm.
manicured, like sequences. I guess that's all lost when
Yeah,
you
it's
give
like
somebody a pair
kills
of goggles.
like the magic of the moment, but
Yeah.
that you make
Yeah,
with
yeah.
art is usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's this new technology is coming in. It's kind of like it's always been when new technology is arriving, that people are kind of like fearing the new. Like it's the story of the video killed the radio star.
Yeah.
So you get the TV, the video clips, the stuff that came with this, but it didn't really kill the radio.
Yeah.
The yeah,
Definitely not. Yeah.
sort of, it's kind of like a different different form of art, so to speak. Like it's similar, but it's not the same. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just a
it's a different
different way of
experience.
expression. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And there's
it's
no
like
reason,
you're seeing the movies, and that didn't really kill theater.
or this, or
Uh,
even the still, the like the static image, right? Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess you don't really, and there's no reason they can't coexist. I guess, yeah. So besides, I can't imagine how you would like. Can you even do post on a VR, uh, like on a VR sort of yeah, I have absolutely no experience with virtual reality. I don't even know. I'm guessing they kind of it would sort of be a video, and then you can like the crudest level, I guess, would it be it being some sort of like a sequence, but then rendered uh, panoramically so that you can kind of move around.
And that's a simple way, but you get this really live, live engines like the game engines
Mm.
involved, and then you get full freedom of movement and
Yeah, like full freedom of movement and doing everything, and sometimes even changing the environment,
yeah,
um,
interacting.
Yeah.
like
Oh.
interacting with the environment. Yeah.
Oh.
A lot of things are already possible. It's kind of like uh, anything you can see in the game development. sort
Yeah.
of.
Oh,
So
I guess so. Yeah.
computer games are really right now at the edge of technology, sort of,
Yeah. So
in this area, I
you
guess.
mean you could like cook like a virtual breakfast in your dream kitchen or something like that as part of
Yeah, if anyone put
Well,
enough work in creating this
yeah.
experience, sort of,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Like you can see that the game engines released, like the Unreal Engine got really popular between like among the Archviz artists or generally architects, like and also tools that are simpler to use, like right now Twinmotion, I guess, or stuff like that that's
Mm-hmm.
appearing. And
yeah, and actually there are some studios that are only using like Unreal Engine and all this real-time technology for visualizing, like doing all kind of Archviz in real-time engines, like completely switching from the kind of our standard workflow to real-time technologies.
Oh wow. And uh is that something that kind of like did you guys experience that transition maybe, or like did you slowly start uh landing clients, for example, who were looking specifically for that sort of like deliverable, that sort of final output? Or is it still like is it something that people have only now really begun to adopt?
Well, I think it's something kind of fresh, and people are still kind of starting to learn about it. Um, I think there are a lot of bigger clients, like bigger architectural companies or visualizing companies or all kind of residential companies that are kind of trying to use real-time technologies, and they feel that it's kind of like going to like the good way to go. But actually, if it comes to my experience, I kind of only got one client that approached me about doing kind of an immersive project, and actually kind of eventually walked away from it because she didn't really want to pursue it. So she wanted just to do like this standard kind of ArcViz project. So I think it's kind of new, but it's still kind of being implemented and used within the industry. Um, so I don't think it's kind of storming the industry. I mean, not yet, probably.
Yeah. I know that for example yeah, like there's a lot, especially for hard surface um, material, like inorganic surfaces or slash wood and all of the less, uh, like the surfaces that basically really depend only on reflection and well, the typical diffuse specular glossiness kind of like the inorganic materials, things that don't really require light traveling from within the surface of the mesh, like uh, those sort of materials do really well in. I mean, we can see in like in triple A games alone, we can already kind of really appreciate how closer we're getting to realism just with real time technology. So if that's true, do you think we're gonna like abandon good old global illumination eventually, or is there a future for that kind of thing still?
Hmm. That's that's a good question actually. 'Cause
Yeah,
I think
quite hard
that's
to
hard to answer at
answer.
this point. I think
Yeah.
'cause
Yeah, but
there's
seeing the movements from the companies, sort of like the Nvidia and people really working on the edge of the technology side of things, you could tell that probably it's going to be some kind of a hybrid approach. As of now, they are offering like different things for the game, the game dev approach, sort of, and also implementing the live ray tracing, trying to get the GPUs to work live with ray tracing features, and so I guess it's kind of both moving, pushing all of the ends to
Mm,
be
yeah, I think it's gonna
effective.
like probably in a few years is gonna take like probably a bigger part of the market with all those real-time ray tracing technologies. But then I remember I read like in I think it was a report on City Architect that was saying that like I don't know, it's like 3 years ago that they were saying that probably in a few years the like real-time technologies are gonna like push away the old-time well, ray tracing visualization. But I think it's well a few years past and it's still working well like kind of in unison, and I think it's still gonna we're still gonna work with the standard our workflow.
yeah.
Um, and I think it's not going to die like within a day.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of improvement going on. Some new rendering engines were being created, and
Yeah, it's not
the
like
previous
they.
ones being like developed all the time. So I think it's still gonna we're gonna work with that one.
Yeah, otherwise they would have dropped that and switched entirely to real
Yeah, but
time.
you can see that the technology is kind of like getting to the level that you can have live preview of the high-end ray tracing things. You get the most up-to-date rendering engines getting the live preview as a standard. All things are moving kind of in this workflow direction, so that you can see live what you're doing with the
Oh,
shaders and
right.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so I
Yeah, I think
guess
it's
it's
kind of becoming a hybrid in between like real time and this old time.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, that's an interesting point because uh, what do you guys think that would mean for today's like visualizers and the way they work with their clients or within their agencies? Because I mean, like so now we have real time, and that kind of allows us to kind of do look development in a really like sophisticated way, and now people are going to be, oh, I'm thinking maybe like people would be expected to spit out sort of well, I wouldn't say dailies, but you'd probably have to kind of have something to show more frequently to your client as you're moving through the project, because now it's possible, right? Like I mean, you could you wouldn't have to worry about render time anymore with having created the scene like a room or an exterior in real time. And so yeah, what do you guys think will happen? Do you think that will that mean like more opportunities for clients to kind of uh, provide input? Will that mean more work because you'd have to keep making adjustments more frequently now? Or do you think it'd actually be easier because it like adjustments will come anyway and you'd probably be able to fix them much more quickly?
Well, I think when it comes to real-time technologies, it kind of cuts the time of rendering, because if you, like, for example, with Unreal Engine, if you take the lighting, if you just change the position of some furniture, it's just enough to, like, I think just a quick rendering, which takes like a few minutes. And I think it could be like an opportunity for clients to do a lot of changes, like mid-project. I don't really know how that comes with the studio workflow and the amount of time it takes to like make all the changes. I'm not really familiar with that kind of workflow, so it's hard to say actually.
Well, I would think that it's definitely a tool that can be used to benefit in this area. I think like sort of using it's kind of like the way. Well, I'm myself have a Blender 3D background, so this is a kind of like the idea between developing the real-time engine and the ray tracing engine alongside, and getting the tool to quickly like visualize your ideas and get a pretty similar view of it. It's a nice tool, yeah, but you can benefit it and have also disadvantages of it, yeah, like letting the client to rule the project too much, sort of. But
Yeah,
it comes,
that's also
I think
really,
it comes down to, I think, rather the strategy of managing the client or like the communications with the client.
Yeah.
That's really the hard thing, and it's not really about the technology, I think.
Yeah, but
Like to
that
some extent, yeah, but
does
I
that
guess
mean
it's
that it'll get harder now, or I don't know. I
I
mean,
don't think so. I think that
okay.
human expectations are always kind of like it's more of a psychology thing than I think it's of a technology side of things.
Yeah, that's true.
The Archviz business generally. So, well,
yeah.
if you're clever in managing the project, like in managing the client, sort of, then you can use this technology to your advantage. And if you let the client get on top of your head, sort of, he will use every tool against you if you let him, so to speak.
The expectations are always higher than technology, like capabilities.
That's true. So anytime some new technology comes up, everyone thinks, I don't know, like,
Yeah, but then you can use this technology to kind of sell your ideas. If you use it cleverly, you can easier impress the client that you can see really a live preview of what's going on with the project. You can quickly prepare like variants. It's usually the thing is that many clients really don't like, they think they know what they want, and sometimes it's not true. Like they can't really visualize what they really want, and you have to kind of like give them something to choose from. So if they have some versions visualized, they can then make decisions quicker. Yeah. So
well, that's
sometimes
true.
it's a nice communication tool, sort of getting quicker and nicely looking previews of the work.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That actually kind of yeah, like
Uh,
it becomes a better bridge between.
yeah, it's sometimes easier for the client to choose between like three images that show some kind of direction than just like talking on raw
That's true. Yeah, versus having
abstraction,
to
some reference photos or whatever.
versus you having to like create it from like an email full of adjectives, right?
Yeah. It's always better to work on images and
Yeah.
choose something when you can see it actually.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Good
Yeah.
point. And yeah, so it seems like, like there's just a lot that I think because I think it's pretty plain to see that a lot of architectural visualization agencies are popping up from all over the world, and it's one of those, I guess, m- well, it's one of the more prominent industries, I guess. If you I think nowadays, if like anyone who kind of sort of thinks about 3D would associate it with architectural visualization among other things. So uh, the people in the industry and people who are trying to, like newcomers to the, like people who are trying to make a career out of it, have a lot to think about now, including the fact that there's all this, we're in the middle of like big technological change, and um, we're not really sure how that's going to impact the industry. Uh, so I guess there's a lot that um, designers need to stay on top of now, uh, apart from just the actual craft. But like you kind of have to be on top of, like, be ahead technologically, and I guess well, that's a given, right? But
Yeah.
what are other things that uh, like with the market this saturated now, like what can a visualizer do, or what can an agency do to really set themselves apart?
Well, I think even though we have a lot of new technologies and a lot of kind of this new novelties, new stuff, I think there's still a lot of place for like kind of like this artistic eye and having your own kind of own visual style. Because actually there are some companies like visualization studios which have this kind of very strong style, and whenever you see their projects, you can see that this comes from them directly. So I think even though you still have to have a lot of technical knowledge and a lot of software knowledge, you still have to have this kind of quality to be able to see something within the 3D model, like to find the perfect shot.
Yeah.
So I think you still have to have this kind of artisty eye to the project.
Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't realize that. Like I didn't know that there was a space, I guess, for a sort of like distinct visual look
Well,
in something like
because
Archviz.
if you think about all this technology and you have kind of it's going kind of user friendly, let's say.
Yeah.
Like you can like don't really have to have this extensive technical knowledge like you had to have years ago. The rendering engines created right now were kind of they have like little technical things you have to change within the rendering engine to have like really good image. And then when you can like take less time doing all this technical stuff and dealing with the settings of the rendering, you can take much more time into like this kind of artistic side of the project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good point. Plus,
It's kind of like a little bit like like the photography. Like in the old
Yeah,
times, you had to know the whole all the process of making the image with the camera. Setting up the camera. Right now, you have the cameras that do most of the job for you, sort of.
mhm.
You don't have to even with the digital camera. You don't have to even care about all the film stuff and then developing the film. It's kind of like easier than the old-fashioned traditional photography. But then you have to still kind of manage the device and
yeah,
really get into the meat of really creating the image as like framing the image, setting up the lighting or finding the right angle to view the things, just yeah, all the artistic part of making a good image. So, the tools are getting easier to use, but then you have to really use them to make them do what you want. Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
yeah,
You have more
exactly. Yeah,
time. Yeah, having like easier tools give you more time to focus on the real thing.
real meat of the image. Well, there's actually some companies that are taking a lot of from photography into 3D design. Um, and even some of the bigger players, like there was a time when I talked to IKEA, and they have these two departments, which is one is like a 3D department, and the other is like this big photography department. And they even have these kind of they shift one like one department to the other. They take the 3D artists to the photographers, and they have to learn from them, and then they take the photographers and they go to the 3D department, and those learn from the 3D guys. So it's kind of like merging these two domains of photography and 3D design. It's for the people to learn, like the 3D designers to learn mainly the photography craft and how to look for the qualities in a 3D model, like from the photographic point of view.
Yeah, I just wonder if we were about to ponder about the future of the Archviz, like and standing out from the competition, or sort of in terms of style. It used to be kind of like the photorealism challenge all the way, and I've been to one a meetup locally here where I live, where one of like the best Archviz companies from where I live gave a speech about how they managed to kind of like set their work apart, and he said like that they are using like a lot of tools to get things done quickly, like for example models from libraries and stuff like that, but they usually give them if the project allows, but mostly they try to fight for this kind of like a space for getting something of their own creation into the project, sort of like at least a part of the project, making it from scratch, just to make it a little bit different than all the others. And I'm thinking also about stylizing the project, like you can use different it's just like you can use a different camera to shoot, or different film, or you're shooting photography or filters or stuff like that. So you can use lots. Just like color grading the image to get the mood, and then you can. I'm wondering if there will be once a space for even more kind of like non-photorealistic approach to this area. I've seen like things going that way. For example, with SketchUp way of presenting the projects, like making things look more like a hand-drawn sketch or stuff like that. There's been a trend like that also.
Oh, like non-photorealistic.
I'm just thinking if that won't be a way once you get fed up with all the super photorealistic representations of a project. Maybe people will search for something of a more unique approach.
Yeah, more
just wondering.
Yeah,
kind of like I've recently seen the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie. So comparing this to kind of like all of these superhero movies, or all these cartoon movies done in the Pixar.
The one that's kind of drawn, like kind of a cartoony one. Yeah.
Yeah, the one kind of like comic style kind of like.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of like refreshing in all this flood of this PBR
visual effects, like flooding the screen. Yeah.
So I guess just maybe there will be like also
maybe there is kind of a space for something else, something new.
Cool. Yeah, so that it's cool because I mean so clearly there's a lot of opportunity to still kind of make a mark in the industry, even for upcomers, and like you guys said, with tech being much more accessible now, and probably even more accessible in the future. I don't know if you guys saw, if you guys know Andrew Price, and if maybe you've seen his talk on artificial intelligence. I thought that was really interesting, but he mentioned a bunch of like programs now, and I mean, well, you could think about like deep faking, right? I don't know if you've seen that demo where some guy, like, they were able to use AI to replace Jack Nicholson's face with Jim Carrey's in a scene of The Shining, or maybe the whole movie. I'm not sure, or I'm not even sure if it's The Shining.
Well, I saw some different examples of like deep faking Keanu Reeves into some like a short movie.
Oh man, That's cool, but maybe not so cool for Keanu Reeves. But I don't think he'd mind. But wow, yeah. So that's kind of insane. Like with tech like that, I'm sure it'll be even easier to kind of like I'm sure like generate things on the fly or But then I guess yeah, like you were saying, it's not really. I mean, because I suppose a pessimistic way of looking at it is like, oh, then our jobs are obsolete and nobody is gonna need to. But on the other hand, that just kind of will elevate the demand for quality, and the people who will really be able to leverage this technology are people who've invested in developing their design and artistic eye. Um, and so, but then like the whole 3D workflow, even now, even if like things have really kind of improved, it's still a pretty tedious workflow. There's still a lot of things that need to need to get done, and that's just in actually uh, creating things in 3D. So I guess like the Archviz workflow could be equally long and could take up a lot of time. Like, how long would you guys usually be given for example, visualize a room? What's like the
Hmm.
standard, you know? Uh,
Well, well, it always depends on the project, but usually just get a few days probably, depending on the client, because you also have this client that wants you to create a whole visualization like a day or two,
wow.
giving crazy deadlines.
Yeah.
But usually, it's like a few days and then iterating between like the project and the client and making changes. Because there are also always some changes to be made.
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of also depends on what the client is able to provide. Is it just, a basic concept, a floor layout or a 3D model that he already has,
Oh,
or
right. Okay.
different factors.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you always get different materials. I had clients that gave me like complete 3D models and they just wanted to like have the interior furnished and then like rendered out. But I also have clients that just had like I don't know like a hand sketch or even nothing at all, just like an idea,
Oh,
and they
wow.
just wanted to have like created everything from scratch and then like doing everything from like the very basic shapes and 3D model.
Wow. Yeah,
So it always depends. I don't know. There's like no standard, I think.
yeah. But I guess definitely, yeah, like there's a lot of time saved now thanks to the advancements in the software and how much more intuitive it is. But let's say the brief is, I need I need an interior, and all the brief has, for example, is like a few sort of image references for what they want like the atmosphere to be, like a mix between this and this maybe, or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
yeah, like, so what would that mean? Like, what sort of what would you guys uh, have to go through to be able
Hmm.
to get to the final render for something like that?
Well, you probably have to start with doing the model and then kind of getting the interior furnished depending on what the client wants, like depending on his references or the style he wants to achieve. Um, and then probably when you have like the model and you have the model furnished, usually it's good to have like some good 3D stores to have the models of the furniture because that's really like cuts the time of creating the whole model. And then probably just like make some test renders and send it to the client, and then if you're going the right way, or you just have to like redo everything from scratch or like you did not get the style right and you have to take some different furniture, some different lighting, and well then you just have to like find the spot when where you agree with the client and his main idea and his vision he had like in the beginning.
Which I think would take probably the most time, right? Because that's when you kind of that's really when it comes to like creating, like manifesting the abstract.
Yeah, because it's always hard to. It depends on the client, because there are some clients that will just have this clear idea of what they want. But if a client just has some references and some general style, it's always like he has a different idea for the project. You have a different idea, and it's somehow you have to find like a common ground for that, and that's actually kind of takes a lot of time usually. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I can imagine. So, yeah, so you mentioned like 3D, like pre-made 3D models, and
Well, yeah, because you can do all this modeling yourself because it's always possible. But then if you think about modeling every kind of piece of furniture and then every kind of decor in the room, it kind of get to the point where you like lose like a whole week of modeling, and then you don't really have anything to show to your client because you're still like doing let's say each chair or each table one by one, and then modeling, then texturing, all this kind of stuff, unwrapping all this kind of organic furniture.
yeah.
And if you can find a good asset store, then well, it just cuts the time to like I don't know, like a day of preparing the whole interior. So it's real time saver.
Cool, cool. Are there any other like secret tools, I guess, that help like shorten the legwork for creating, like for visualizing? Like, so apart from asset stores, are there any other like services or maybe plugins that you guys really enjoy using that really help save time?
Um, the main thing to do would be to like reuse. If you make something with one project, then basically to save it, like saving all the materials you use or all the materials you created or any
Oh,
models
yeah.
you modeled, and then you're reusing that because every kind of modeling task and every material created is kind of your time invested, and it's good to save that somewhere, like having your library.
Yeah, and keeping things organized, sort of. That's the kind
Yeah.
of a weak spot sometimes in the work. For while you're working on the project, you're definitely like there's a tendency to rush just to get the that's naming the files correctly and putting them in the right folders. That usually not the thing that you're thinking in the first place. But then in the next project, if you have spent a few minutes on organizing stuff, it pays off later. Yes. So or if you have a nice tool for managing all of your assets, or I guess that
Yeah, I
also
guess that's
helps.
true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm guilty of forgetting to properly name my objects often.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
probably
Usually,
that's why there are tools popping up, helping you to really do that for you.
yeah,
So like keep things, find assets and stuff like that. So that's also a
Yeah,
thing
'cause
for automation, sort of.
the worst case scenario is when you have to get back to a project you did like a few months ago, and you did it like in a rush, and everything is a mess, and you just open the project and you have no damn idea what's going on in there. You can't find anything. So that's a good thing to like organize everything,
yeah,
or to have like a asset management plugin or something like that.
yeah. Well, that it makes sense. Makes sense. How often do clients allocate like some extra budget for rendering, for instance? Or is that even a thing?
Well, from the point of view of the client, he doesn't really. I mean, that's my experience. They don't really think about all these parts like creating the model,
Oh, that's true.
rendering, like
Right.
having a
Yeah.
budget for rendering, having a budget for like some extra assets. They don't really think about that. They usually think that they have this fixed budget for the whole project, and it has to cover everything for the project to be created, like having the final output.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
I guess that's the kind of scenario that a client coming to an architect, he doesn't really know what the architect is going to do in the whole process. Like he isn't really aware about all the concepting phases. So like different things that the architect has to go through to get to the to the idea, to the solutions and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah, of course, that's
And
true.
if sometimes people like wonder why is this priced this much, or you just drew a
Yeah.
few drawings, or something like that,
Just an image actually.
just
Why
an
do I have to
image.
pay so much?
Oh man, that's
The
well,
whole process, the research, the thinking, and
yeah. Oh, well, I hope that yeah, I hope more people are kind of well informed now. So okay, so but that's good to know. So for
but
like
the client doesn't have to be aware of it, but
you need to
it's kind of
factor it
your
in. Yeah,
it's kind of your task to put it into your pricing, sort
exactly.
of,
Yeah. So
and be aware of it as your cost. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, keep that in mind, folks. For those of you who are new to this whole thing. Um, okay, wow, that's been really, really interesting input, and I think we pretty much uh, covered everything we were looking to cover for this conversation. So um, I think before we leave, because like one of the takeaways that came out of our conversation basically was that uh, what like the mm, investing in really refining your artistic or design sensibilities is a must, especially in today's kind of in the way the industry is today. And we talked a little bit about yeah, like developing a sense of style and um, kind of like people having a chance to stand out that way. Could you guys tell us a little bit about what goes into a particular style? Like what sort of like what sort of considerations do you need to make from that sort of artistic or design um, sense to create something that's very visually compelling and unique? Like what sort of what are the fundamentals that people should be studying or relearning or learning more of?
Hmm. I think it's always good to look at the kind of the classical, let's say, c- the classical look of let's say, the basics of 3D graphics. Like like we mentioned photography, like you can take a look at some photographs, like try to reference something from a photograph and then reference it in 3D space. Try to, if you're looking for a kind of a photorealistic look, then kind of try to recreate this real life situations, real life, like let's say some interiors or exteriors or whatever. And I think, well, the best way to kind of find your own style would be to just start a project that you like, and then, because you're not going to love every project you make commercially, because you often have to compel to what your clients wants. But if you
True,
find a
yeah.
project you really like and you can spend some time on it, try to refine it all the way from, let's say, from scratch, from the basic 3D model to the final image, then I think that's the best way to go. And then kind of try to find your style based on that kind of your favorite project or kind of a project you really liked creating and you really like kind of visually also. I think it's good to make some fun out of it
Yeah,
and try to find some fun in this kind of creating kind of workflow in 3D.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, and it can be fun. I mean, it's loads of
yeah,
fun.
sure, it can be fun. I mean,
Just
if
just
you if you
just as
work
long
on
as
deadlines,
yeah,
that's not fun.
yeah,
But if you have some time, you can work on it. You can have some fun. It's really cool. And
yeah, yeah,
I think it's always good to have kind of some personal project every once in a while, kind of refresh yourself, refresh your style, and kind of not dwell on all those commercial projects and dwelling on what your client tells you to do and all the deliverables and deadlines, all that kind of stuff.
yeah. Ah, yeah. That is a really that's a really cool that's a really cool takeaway. I mean, this whole idea of yeah, your personal, like um sort of art the same way, well, the same way it is with, in art or music, it's in the end it boils down to how
Yeah,
you get
kind of
your personal
personality.
sensibilities. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly. Yeah.
cool. Yeah. What about you, DJ? Any thoughts?
I guess, yeah. If I'd say I think it's kind of good to also, while you're working on Archviz, is sort of develop an eye on looking at different art forms as well, like watching movies, photography, paintings, stuff like that, and yeah, just seeing, yeah, and asking this question, why does it look good, really, or what is it that makes it kind of pleasing to the eye or interesting or engaging, sort of, yeah. Because usually you just experience something and then don't really think about how to deconstruct it into like the primitives, sort of getting to the root of things. And I think it's quite good to experience also different things, and yeah, just wonder about, especially visual arts of all sorts. Yeah, and
Yeah,
wonder.
exactly. I think if you find this something you like and you think about what's like good in a picture or what's good in a painting, then probably you're gonna kind of find out how can you achieve that, and then you can try to replicate this kind of style, replicate this kind of technique, and then I think this is kind of a good way to like find your own artistic and visual style.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, I think that's so.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think one good thing I also found out lately, like when developing my drawing skills, sort of like the traditional, mixing the traditional and also trying out some digital painting and stuff like that as well. And it's kind of the same with the Archviz thing. Sometimes it's good to get to some simple setups. So, like doing a bigger projects, usually you're getting into details a lot, and then sometimes you kind of like lose this first like sketchy approach. So, like for example, painting also you can kind of get stuck on the details, on the small things that tweaking the parameters, getting this right little detail right, or and then losing this whole quick approach. And I was having some fun with an application that a guy called Von Ling has done, Heavy Paint. He has made a really simple drawing app for iPhones or tablets or stuff like that, and well, you have just like simple basic tools, an RGB slider, a few paintings, sketchy like tools, really without all this Photoshop abundance,
Photoshop
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
which you
No
don't really
lasso
need to
select
get.
for you, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, just you just get this quick, dirty color painting, a
Oh
little bit of
yeah.
mixing, simple
Oh
mixing,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
just get to the thing that you really want to get out of an image quickly. So like
Yeah.
a sketching, kind of a sketching approach. And I think it really allows you to focus on like what you really want to achieve from the image.
Yeah, oh, I see what you mean now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think like,
Yeah.
especially in traditional media, I mean, you don't really, maybe it's like, yeah, like also like what you were saying, Tom, about like stepping away from that mindset where it's like it's really about nailing the next client or becoming
Mm.
marketable. Because yeah, like I think exploration is definitely something that is easily overlooked, especially if you got to pay the bills and like the deadlines are just everywhere looming. And then yeah, and like traditional media, I think is something that, yeah, I mean, I can see what you mean, like about having to sort of,
Yeah, I think
you're
it's
forced
about kind of
to be explorative, instead of,
yeah, kind of
yeah.
taking a step back. I think is you take a step back and then you like kind of explore this let's say this raw creativeness and this kind of the most basic tools, then I think at some point you're going to get to this kind of commercialism and selling yourself, because it usually comes at some point, like, or let's say organically.
Yeah.
'Cause
Oh,
if you've got a good style, I think it's gonna sell
yeah.
eventually.
Cool. Very cool. Well, thanks so much for your time, guys. I think that about wraps up our first podcast. So, yeah, I think like maybe very briefly, like what would be the one advice you'd give to someone starting out in the Archviz industry now? Like just literally one, like just one piece of advice from each of you to close off this.
Well, I think it'll be the best way would be to find something, like finding your style, finding something you really like, and then kind of first of all try to make fun of it, and then eventually it's gonna like kind of get to the point where you can sell it as a kind of art and get some commissions. But I think it always kind of has to start with some creative fun in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'd also, I think it's kind of like always when you get into some sort of job or art form, you have to have some kind of a role model, hero sort of. So you probably once you don't get into this job just because you feel that there's money in or something like that. You probably want to do that because it seems like interesting or you're enjoying seeing nice art, these images sort of. So that's why you want to pursue this job. So you probably have to find your hero creators and just wonder how they are doing what they're doing and try to go there, and probably along the way you'll get maybe somewhere else, or your perspective will change along the way. But I think when starting out you have to have some kind of like a master that you want to pursue.
Yeah,
And eventually
others.
and learn from others. Yeah, and also be active. Right now the community aspect of this, I think it's kind of growing, because when I started out, I think it kind of was a little bit more closed. Everyone was just doing his thing, and it was not so much of a community like online. Right now, like people tend to be more open nowadays, and
I think there's a lot of people that will help if you need some help. Like you're starting out, there's a lot of people that will help you like achieve something, or just criticize something that you're doing and tell you what you can improve.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's good to know.
I guess knowledge is a lot more accessible right now than it was 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, most definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks again so much, guys, for all the gems you've been dropping. Okay, so I guess that's it. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Nice talking to you.
See, it's been great.
Likewise, yeah.